You okay?
Yeah.
Can I call the South Carolina Commission of Disabilities and Special Needs to order? And I need the Mary Ellen, I can just state.
I just figured that out the same time you did.
Okay. Statement of announcement, the news release announcing the date, time, and place of the July 20th, 2017 commission meeting was mailed July 18th, 2017 to appropriate media and other groups or individuals who have requested notification. The announcement and agenda were posted at the Department of Disabilities and Special Needs Central Administrative Office video conference locations and on the website. Americans with Disability Act. The public has been notified that accommodations such as interpreters, mobility assistance, and other assistance will be provided to individuals with disabilities and special needs if requested in advance. Okay, we are going to go into executive session, and I need a motion to go into to discuss contractual matters with SCDDSN and to discuss an employment matter. Can I get a motion?
And receive legal advice.
And receive legal advice from time.
So moved.
So moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Y'all, we're gonna go to conference room 257, so everybody can move around there. Everybody else can come up there. Yeah, right. We were in executive session to discuss Administrative Directive 537-25 and personnel issues. Those votes were taken. So we're now in our public session. So I just want to say I'm Eva Ravenel, I'm the new chair. I just want to thank Bill Danielson for his wonderful service last year. So appreciate that. Let's see. So I was say, do I need to take away you sent it? Oh, the invitation, that's for me. Oh, Heavenly Father, we appreciate the opportunity to be here today. What makes this country great is not that everyone thinks alike, but the diversity of its people. We are gathered here today to enhance the lives of the people we serve. I don't ask you to bow your heads, but to look up at what you can accomplish by working together. I don't ask you to close your eyes, but to keep them wide open to the problems our community faces. With your talents and insight, we can lead this community to a better future. Amen. Can I have the introduction of guests? And I like to start at the front. So can I start up here?
Pat Maley, BHDD-OIDD.
J. Cole, Behavior Support Provider. Dr. Hongo, Behavior Support Provider.
Jason Gregg, BHDD-OIDD.
Laura Cole, just a person.
Justin.
Where are you from, Laura?
Here, Columbia.
Okay, great.
Patricia Harrison, advocate. Deborah and Heather McPherson.
Bill Phillips, State Senate. Tim Smith, Greenville News. Bill Clarkson, Brand Leadership Council, Madison, West Brand.
Jane DeLesser, Greenville County, South Carolina. And this is my daughter Rachel.
Jerry Biden, Oconee DSN.
Margie Williamson, Arkansas, South Carolina.
Ray Miller, DD Council.
Sarah Sinon, Protection and Advocacy.
Blake Sanders, BHDD-OIDD.
Doug Finkelstein, the Army of Midland.
Elaine Woodley, BHDD-OIDD. Ross Parknell, BHDD-OIDD. Sharon Presley, Legal Services, Carolina.
Dexter Austin, BDSN.
Dwayne Goodman, Community Houses.
John Fisher, South Carolina Medical. Kevin Rice, South Carolina Medical.
Ralph Courtney, Action County Board of Disabilities, Department.
Daniel?
James and Davis, Autism Division.
Suzanne Hunnam, Project Hope Foundation, serving the autism community.
Marty Rawls, Director of Finance.
Maureen Lowitzer Ritter, BDSN.
Welcome. Thank you. Adoption of the agenda. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the minutes of June 15, 2017 commission meeting. Motion.
So moved.
Second. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we have public input. Stay cold.
Good morning. My name is Jericho, and I'm a DDSN approved behavior support provider for both adults and children diagnosed with autism. I'm also a former president of the South Carolina Association for Behavior Analysis. I appreciate the opportunity to speak for a few minutes to discuss the provision of behavior support services provided for both adults and children with disabilities, including autism. The demand is at levels unseen before, and changes should be made to the current system to effectively provide behavioral services to these populations. It is widely accepted that effective behavior treatment services, whether early intervention autism programs or behavioral services for adults with disabilities, be delivered by a board-certified behavior analyst. The Behavior Analyst Certification Board, or the BACB, is a national governing board that grants the BCBA designation. It describes BCBAs as independent practitioners who may also work as employees or independent contractors for an organization. The BCBA conducts descriptive and systematic behavioral assessments, including functional analyses, and provides behavior analytic interpretations of the results. So what does this mean, and why should you care? The letters are very important because it means that the person working with the consumer has been through rigorous coursework with intensive supervision to be able to demonstrate skills in order to help children and adults with disabilities achieve new skills while decreasing problem behavior. Would we consider going to a medical doctor for our physical health issues that is not board certified to practice medicine? Similarly, we should not leave behavioral health issues to those that are not board certified behavior analysts. Since 2009, 27 states have adopted legislation to require licensure of behavior analysts to practice in their states. Let's break down the requirements. In order to become a BCBA, we need to have supervision and coursework that teaches us the breadth and depth of the field. BCBAs must have a minimum of a master's degree and a PhD to be a BCBA doctorate, and have a minimum of 1,500 hours of supervision and 225 classroom hours of graduate level coursework in behavior analysis. For more information on the specifics of these requirements, you can check out bacb.com. Once its education is complete, the professional then must pass a rigorous national exam. However, learning does not end once you pass the exam. BCBAs must keep up with their education by attending conferences and gain 32 hours of coursework every 2-year recertification cycle to maintain their certification. Keeping up with the research and continuing to grow your skills are not just requirements, but they're the heart and soul of the BCBA certification. If this isn't happening, the service will not meet a standard level of excellence. Our purpose is to look at behavior scientifically and let the data guide our decision making. All of our practice must be evidence-based. That sounds very cold when it is spelled out that way, but it's really not. BCBAs are required to ensure that what they are doing has the most benefit for the consumer. We measure and question ourselves each day in all we do. If the data show that our approach is not working, we are required to put that idea aside and redo the assessment to make sure that what we are doing is correct. We get the privilege of working closely with people who need our help, but also have a strong science which informs us to do what we do. That's the benefit of working with a BCBA. As the number of children who are diagnosed with autism increases, the current CDC prevalence is 1 in 68. So has the need and relevance for BCBAs who specialize specifically in working with children on the spectrum. The high number of problem behaviors and skills which need to be addressed in children with autism makes the field of behavior analysis an essential part of their treatment. As behavior analysts, we break down those skills into small pieces and measure their growth to make sure our teaching is effective. In addition, we look at the function of problem behavior and work to reduce them so that children are more available for learning. I'd like to share some data with you regarding supply and demand issues. According to the BACB website, as of July 5th, 2017, the number of individuals holding a BACB credential are, for doctorate level board certified, 2,049, for master's level BCBAs, 22,620, and for bachelor's level analyst, 2,536. In South Carolina today, we currently have 251 individuals that are board certified at one of these three levels. 45 of these are certified at the bachelor's level and must practice under the supervision of master's and/or PhD level individuals. As reported in previous DDSN commission meetings, you are aware of the supply-demand issue in relationship to autism and early intervention provision. However, these numbers would indicate a bigger issue and that many more BCBAs are needed for adult behavior services as well. Systems administered by DDSN should work toward attracting BCBAs as competition for these individuals is fierce. I have provided supervision to several individuals living in South Carolina that eventually become board certified. However, they left this state to take more attractive jobs in Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, Virginia, and other states. I would encourage DDSN to look at mechanisms to develop, attract, and retain BCBAs to serve an exploding population of individuals needing this critical service. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Dr. Hahn, vote.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Commission of DDSN, thank you for allowing me this opportunity to present. I am Dr. Han Go, an approved DDSN behavior supports provider for adults, much like Mr. J. Cole. I'm a PhD level board certified behavior analyst who has been providing behavior support services in South Carolina since 2010. And I'm also a licensed behavior analyst in the state of Kentucky. My purpose today is to describe to you the quality assurance or QA review tool that DDSN has designed to evaluate behavior support providers' performance. I will also be describing implications of this QA review tool on provider services, but more importantly, on the actual impact on treatment effectiveness. First, I would like to remind all of us the vision statement of DDSN as stated on its website, and that is to provide the very best services to assist all persons with disabilities and their families in South Carolina. The QA review tool was designed by DDSN and implemented in mid-2015. Due to time constraints, I will not be able to outline the many details of this QA review tool, but suffice it to say it has many components. However, not all of its components are designed to evaluate clinical effectiveness. The consequences of failing this review are severe in that there is no warning for failing the first review. Instead, providers are immediately placed on probation and new referrals are denied services to the failed provider. A second failing constitutes being fired from the service. No other service provision in DDSN has this severe consequences. Mr. Cole and I failed the first review due to administrative technicalities. We filed a grievance at different levels to appeal the result of our failed initial review, highlighting non-clinical basis of the QA standards. The most recent level of grievance we filed with Dr. Buscemi, who delegated this issue to Mrs. Susan Bact, the Associate Director of DDSN in charge of policies. Part of Mrs. Back's reply on February 24, 2017, I will quote below. The QA review tool solely measures the behavior support service provider's compliance with the behavior support services standards. The QA review tool was not designed, nor is it used to determine the clinical appropriateness and effectiveness of services rendered. I will read that statement again. The QA review tool was not designed, nor is it used to determine the clinical appropriateness and effectiveness of services rendered. That second statement stands diametrically opposed with the vision statement of DDSN, where the primary concern should be to the clinical effectiveness of services to clients. In my 27 years as a practicing behavior analyst, I have never encountered an agency that puts forth administrative standards above clinical practice. My failing this QA review was the issue of not conducting a new assessment for 2 transferred cases. My response to the expert reviewers who scored the review was that there was no need for a new assessment. that the current one was valid after I reviewed it, and also by showing them 12 months worth of treatment data indicating progress. They agreed from a clinical standpoint and lamented that the section on assessment should be scored as not applicable, but instead they scored it as 0. Their reasoning was that their clinical expertise in this review was constrained by the exact wording of the QA review tool, and that for transfer cases, despite showing treatment progress that shows no need for a follow-up assessment, a new provider must conduct a new assessment without exception. Let me better illustrate my case with a medical analogy. Let's say I walk into the hospital complaining of persistent headaches and blurred vision for 2 weeks that are not mitigated with painkillers and rest. The doctor refers me to a neurosurgeon who conducts an MRI and discovers a brain tumor pressing on my optic nerve, thus validating all my symptoms. The neurosurgeon quits and my case is reassigned, and a new neurosurgeon, who then reviews the MRI results conducted by the initial neurosurgeon, agrees that those results are valid, performs the surgery, along with 12 months of post-operative care showing great recovery. No headaches, no blurred vision, no side effects. Shockingly, the neurosurgeon is placed on probation for not conducting a new MRI, despite the case being a huge treatment success. In other words, the neurosurgeon's expertise in omitting a second MRI, leading to treatment success, is invalidated due to an administrative technicality. Meanwhile, new clients referred to the probation neurosurgeon face extensive delays on needed treatments due to the administrative technicality, as the neurosurgeon cannot take on new cases. Finally, I'm not here just to point out negative aspects of the QA review. Mr. Cole and I actually had a meeting on April 4th of this year with Mrs. Bact to follow up on her response to our grievance. It was actually a very good meeting, and she was very helpful in making it known to DDSN, to us, that DDSN is also facing certain restrictions from the Department of Health and Human Services. So we understand there has to be some administrative oversight on policies. But we believe the current version of the QA review is too punitive and compromises good clinical practice. You have behavior analysts like us currently working with DDSN that have extensive experience with peer review systems from other states. Peer review systems that have shown to have over 25 years of success, accommodating both administrative requirements, but not compromising good clinical practice. So this wheel, ladies and gentlemen, has already been invented. Let us help you tweak this wheel to come up with a better QA system so we can better balance clinical effectiveness with administrative issues. Mrs. Beck seemed interested in pursuing the discussion on a peer review system of quality assurance, and so are we, very much so. So let us join forces, move forward, so we can all maximize clinical effectiveness of treatments to the clients we serve. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Deborah Pearson?
Good morning. Since fiscal year 15, the General Assembly has provided $26.3 million in new recurring state funds specifically to serve persons on DDSN's waiting list. If these funds had been spent to provide waiver services, that $26.3 million would have been matched with $61.3 million in federal funds, thereby producing $87.6 million in new services. Last month, this commission approved community contracts for FY18, which appear to reduce the number of persons who will receive residential services by 146 compared to the numbers provided in last year's approved community contracts, although there have been no reductions in recurring state funds. Despite the fact that DDSN will be providing fewer services to waiver participants with the elimination of psychological services and medications as waiver services, the approved community contracts for this fiscal year appear to reduce the number of persons receiving day program services by 195 and the number of persons receiving individual family supports by 1,800 when compared to FY17 contracts. The Commission should explain to the public and the General Assembly why the recurring funds appropriated by the General Assembly to serve persons on the waiting list appear to have been either spent on for other purposes and are carried forward to be used for other purposes. This year alone, even applying the higher HASKI state match rate of $21,900 for residential beds and $4,080 for in-home supports, it appears that at least $3.1 million of the $26.3 million in recurring state funds intended to provide services to persons on the waiting list may be spent for other purposes, which may result in loss of federal dollars. According to DDSN's accountability reports and data presented to the Commission for FY17, service capacity appears to have increased by almost 4,000 over the past 3 years. However, the FY18 contracts appear to reduce the gains made in the past 3 years by at least 49%. In 2008, the LAC concluded that information provided by DDSN's information systems may be unreliable. The LAC reported that DDSN requested new money for residential bed development when it failed to spend 7.6 of the $25.4 million of the General Assembly appropriated to operate new beds the year before. These practices seem to have continued. For example, DDSN informed the General Assembly in its 2016 accountability report that capacity had increased by 1,900 individuals, but Dr. Buscemi recently admitted to me in an email that capacity actually increased to almost 1,200. This error should be reported to the General Assembly and the House and Senate oversight committees. A review of the contract data for the past 9 years suggests that DDSN has only added 509 beds for an average of 57 beds annually, despite receiving millions of dollars to provide new services. Every year, DDSN has told the General Assembly that more money is needed for residential services because over 500 individuals live with caregivers over 80 years of age. In response, legislators have allocated monies only to have money used for other purposes as documented in the 2008-2014 LAC reports. Given the increase in our aging population and the proposed Medicaid cuts being considered by Congress, you're sitting on a time bomb. DDSN brags in its accountability reports that it's serving a higher percentage of people with disabilities at home than the national average. However, DDSN has been shifting this burden onto aging parents who have a family member with a disability living at home when adequate in-home supports are not provided. When the IDRD waiver renewal was recently approved by CMS, DDSN immediately sent notices to providers that psychological services had been removed from the waiver. Yet case managers still had not been informed that the waiver was amended to provide exceptions to the caps on services imposed in 2010. The DDSN Commission and staff have heard me for the past 4 months continue to express my concerns that DDSN and its agents do not currently have authority to be making healthcare decisions for individuals with disabilities unable to consent. Due to time, I prepared a summary of my concerns as a handout, which I ask you to look at prior to your discussions today. You have it before you. Recently, I reviewed sections of the IDRD waiver renewal approved by CMS in May. My attention was drawn to the reference to a Directive 53302. To my amazement, I learned that this directive was revised in December 2016 to allow providers not to inform parents of victims or perpetrators of alleged sexual assault in DDSN programs unless they have been appointed as legal guardians or else the victim or perpetrator consents to the disclosure. This is another major change in DDSN's directives not approved by the Commission. Where a sexual assault may have occurred, as mandated reporters, providers and DDSN must report any such instance to SLED, promptly obtain emergency treatment, and immediately inform the family member of a client not capable of consenting, as defined by the South Carolina Adult Healthcare Consent Act, so that appropriate diagnosis and treatment may be provided in a timely manner. I call the Commission's attention to the ruling in Madison versus Babcock Center, where the South Carolina Supreme Court ruled DDSN and its providers may have violated their duty of care to Madison and provided guidance to determine when a residential client is not capable of consenting to sexual relations. In its attempt to amend the Healthcare Consent Act and these directives, which may prevent providers from informing family members of persons not capable of consenting to sexual relations, DDSN has attempted to shift the burden and cost of obtaining guardianship to families in order to exercise a right already given to them by the General Assembly. Families like myself who supported and been involved in their adult child with a disability's life now feel compelled to obtain guardianship to ensure they will continue to have the ability to make medical decisions, have input, and protect the interest of their adult child because of DDSN's recent interpretation of state law that it and its agents are third in priority in making healthcare decisions above the family. Just because DDSN has stated its directive that it will not exercise that authority does not protect the interest of the individual with the disability and or his or her family. The revision of 53302 and the proposed revision of 53507 likely constitute violations of the rights of consumers and families, placing providers who rely upon DDSN for oversight and direction and commissioners at risk of liability. 53507 should be amended to direct providers to refer to and comply with the priorities established by the Adult Healthcare Consent Act and seek approval of the probate court where a family member with authority is not willing or able to make healthcare decisions or family members with equal priority disagree. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia Harrison.
Thank you. Today, I wish to share concerns I have as a taxpayer and a relative of a DDSN client about the band payment system. When DDSN transitioned from a fee-for-service system to the band payment system over the course of 3 years, the number of deaths at the largest provider increased from an average of 2 a year during the first full year of from 2 a year to 10 during the first full year of capitated funding. After band funding was put into place, that private organization's rate of substantiated abuse, neglect, and exploitation increased from double the statewide average to 4 times the statewide average in less than 3 years. Yet, because of the accountability for funds in the band payment system, without authorization from commissioners, DDSN paid this private provider millions of dollars to buy and improve real estate and forgave, again without approval of the commission, millions of dollars of debt. While receiving these subsidies, this private corporation took FICA taxes out of employees' paychecks, but failed to transmit those funds of the corporation's FICA share to the IRS for 46 weeks. Mr. Danielson, you are on the board, and you operate a payroll company. It's hard for us to understand how the largest organization was taking FICA funds out of employees' paychecks, but not paying them for 46 weeks. Those funds used to subsidize this private corporation were taken from funds intended by the General Assembly to be provided to families to provide services needed to support loved ones in their homes across the state. Under the band system, chosen boards have been rewarded with funds to buy and renovate workshops, group homes, and apartments, thereby preventing competition and driving up costs. Private providers who do not receive funds for infrastructure just cannot compete, thereby reducing or eliminating choice and allowing providers with high rates of abuse, like Mentor, to remain in business. Consumers, the ones we're supposed to be serving, have not benefited from these taxpayer boondoggles because they have been charged room and board at or greater than market rates based on charges of room and board set by DDSN. So taxpayers are buying the houses, and then consumers are paying rent sometimes in excess of what you'd pay out in the regular marketplace. In some counties, consumers have not even been credited with food stamp benefits, so that those who receive these benefits pay the same amount for food as those who are not receiving food stamps. DDSN has continued to pay chosen boards for vacant beds while keeping thousands of persons with disabilities on waiting lists and providing inadequate levels of services to families struggling to keep their loved ones at home. In 2009, DDSN and HHS joined together to place caps on home-based services under false pretenses of budget reductions. But the actual per capita cost of waiver participants skyrocketed while services being provided were drastically reduced. The Associate Director of Finance for DDSN, who participated in designing that band system, retired, but he immediately became a subcontractor for Kerr & Company, owned by the former director of DHHS. Curran Company was paid $67,000 in 2010 to prepare a report believed by the public and all these people here to be independent, but now it appears that that report was ghost written by Mr. Barfield, the person who designed the band system that report was designed to substantiate. Not surprisingly, Curran Company reported that the band payment system was legal and met with the requirements of the Medicaid Act when it does not, and the new waiver says it does not. This contract expired 1 year later, yet DDSN continued to pay Curran Company thousands of dollars each month on a no-bid contract not approved by the Budget and Control Board or this commission. Unbeknownst to commissioners and the public, 1/3 of these payments continued to be paid to the former director of finance of this organization who created the band payment system, that he was receiving funds to say that it met legal requirements that it does not. When a former commissioner learned of the no-bid contract, Curran Company was awarded a contract this year for more than $200,000, with the former director of finance who designed the band system continuing to be paid 1/3. Why does DDSN continue to pay this consulting company thousands of dollars a month? Do the commissioners know what benefit the agency, if any, is receiving from that money, which should be used to match and bring 70% of federal funds into South Carolina to provide services and jobs for workers? The per capita cost of the IDRD program increased from $37,000 a year to $51,000 a year in 2010 when services were capped, according to the application HHS submitted to CMS that same month that the Curran Company contract was awarded. According to sworn testimony of former DHHS Director Tony Keck, he did not reduce the payments made to DDSN in 2010, 11, 12, when payments that DDSN were reduced that DDSN made to the boards based on these false claims of budget reductions. All this happened because of the band payment system. In 2014, the director of DHHS informed Dr. Buscemi that the band payment system did not comply with the requirements of the Medicaid Act. When Mr. Keck directed Dr. Buscemi to return DDSN to a fee-for-service system, he was replaced by Christian Sora, the former Governor Haley's $1-a-year man who had received a salary of more than $120,000 from a nonprofit organization funded by undisclosed sources, while holding himself out to be a full-time $1-a-year government employee. Mr. Sora did not follow through with Mr. Keck's intention to require DDSN to abandon the band system. The IDRD waiver expired December 2014, and it wasn't approved again until May 2017. It was carried over. Have any of the commissioners reviewed the more than 500 questions CMS asked, which causes delay? The actual questions, or have you had them filtered through management? Have you asked why millions of dollars budgeted for family supports have not been spent providing services families need this year, and how many millions are being carried forward not to be used for the intended purpose? In the new amended waiver, the CMS has said that DDSN must have exceptions to caps. DDSN sent out a notice to providers saying that, well, psychological services have been eliminated, but people out there in the community who are struggling, who are trying to take care of their loved ones, still are being told by service coordinators that you cannot exceed the caps. This is just, there's no justification for this when this agency has millions of dollars that were paid for services and they're being spent for other purposes or simply kept and carried forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners update? Do you have anything from any commissioners? Vicki?
I didn't get my stuff in
Okay. We have new committee assignments. This year, we are now going to have a legislative committee who will monitor what the state legislature is doing, what concerns DDSN, and this is going to be chaired by Vicki Thompson, with Mary Ellen and Sam serving on the committee. Then the Finance Committee will be chaired again by Gary Lamel, with Bill Danielson and Mary Ellen serving as members. And then the Policy Committee will be chaired by Vicki Thompson, and Sam and Katie will be serving on that with her. Thank you all so much for agreeing to serve. Appreciate it. Okay, State Director's report.
Okay, fairly short report today. Wanted to make sure that everybody is aware that between now and the August commission meetings that DDSN will be holding 5 stakeholder input sessions. We did a blitz of a bulletin, so if you haven't got that, we sent it to basically everybody we had email address for. So please share it widely. But just to go ahead and let people know dates and times, we're doing it in 5 different locations. All of the times are 4:30 to 6:30. The first one will be here in Columbia at DDSN Central Office on July 27th, which is a Thursday. On Tuesday, August 1st, we will be at the Coastal Center in Ladson. On Thursday, August 3rd, we'll be at the Greenville County Council Chambers. They're gracious enough to allow us to use their space, and that's Thursday, August 3rd. On Tuesday, August 8th, we'll be at Tri-Development Center, which is in Aiken again. They're nice enough to let us use their space. And last but not least, on August 10th, which is a Thursday, we'll be at PD Center, which is located in Florence. So trying to kind of hit the various geography of the state. So the more the merrier. The purpose of these forums is to take stakeholder input on budget request priorities and gather and synthesize that information so the commission can use it in their decision making for the agency budget request going forward for next year. Requested update on the Jericho project, which is a joint project between Pickens and Pickens DSN board and the Southern Wesleyan University up in Central. And I think the Anderson board is, in it with you, but Pickens will be the owner of the building that's under construction. It is moving along. The bid process is ongoing for the various components of the construction. They are in the middle of doing site work. Some of the site work has been done. Some is still being completed. There'll be an application for Housing Trust Fund to be submitted in August with the next batch. With regards to that, DDSN has already provided the promised funding to Pickens DSN board for the project. And when it's said and done, it'll be 20 housing units, beds. I guess not necessarily 20 apartments, but 20 people that will be sleeping, and 11 of those will be DDSN qualified individuals, DDSN eligible individuals, and the other 9 will be SWOO students that will help with a collaborative relationship with that setting. So that's moving along. Wanted to announce the District 1 director. We have hired a District 1 director, Miss Nancy Hall. I think many of you know her. She actually had her first day on Monday. To the commission, I forwarded you the announcement, but we sent out an announcement of her hiring. She has over 30 years experience with working with people with disabilities. She's worked both at the regional centers and in the community. Particularly, she's out there in TV land somewhere if you want to wait, Nancy. Yeah. So want to welcome her, and she'll, like I said, she just started Monday, so I think she's already started reaching out to some of the providers in her district and setting up visits and meetings. So an update on the status of the Autism State Plan. DDSN is no longer positioned to be the administrative service organization for that. DHHS has assumed that administrative role, though we are continuing to assist with the interpreter services because we had a system set up to assist them with that. Last month, you guys heard some public comment with regards to TheraP and the next rollout of the, particularly the service plan module. And so in between there, we've had conversations with TheraP, we've had conversations with representatives of the provider network, and we are going to delay the next rollout of that to try and make sure that it's manageable and doable for the provider network, as well as we've got, anytime you're dealing with computer systems, There's always some kinks, and so we've got as complete of a rollout of product as we can. We still don't have a firm date, but we are looking at the possibility of doing a training blitz in October with implementation to go in early November. We want to be sensitive to the holidays and the workload and, not expect to do a training blitz right around the holidays and things like that. So that's what we're looking at, but we're still waiting on some details and feedback from BERAP before we can hammer down that timeline, but did want to let you know that we had made some changes in between the public input that you guys heard last month. And then with regards to the couple of the public comments today, particularly as it relates to BCBA, I appreciate you acknowledging the meeting with this Bact. After that meeting, we have had at least initial conversations with DHHS because some of those things are directly mentioned in the waiver manual or a reference to, so we don't have the autonomy to change those things. But we have started having conversations about what can be changed to make that a slightly smoother process. DHHS, at least at this stage, is open to those conversations, so we want to bring other people in and follow up. But there has been action, so we appreciate and we hear what you're saying. So thank you. And that's all I have.
Okay, great. Susan Beck is out of town, and so Bill was going to give us the waiting list.
Yes. You have under tab 3, and visitor packet has this as well, our waiting list. We are seeing since last month, with the commission's decision to shift rolling out slots more in the IDRD waiver than the community support waiver. So that one of the things we're seeing as a result of that is the number of names that are duplicated on the list is going up. But to hit the highlights, we have right now about 11,351 people waiting on the list. That duplication number is going up. Unduplicated is about 8,368. And on the critical list, we are also, as consistent with the last several months, seeing those numbers creeping up. People are staying on the critical list longer, and we're having a harder time placing them. So as of right now, we have 132 people waiting on the critical list to receive services. And with that, you guys have gotten the report. So do you have any questions?
What can you do to reduce it?
Well, one of the things, what we have made, and this is one of the projects that Pat Malley has been working with our staff and providers about what are, again, trying to lessen the amount of time that people sit in pending.
Right.
And then how we have such a high declination rate in the community sports waiver. There's some things we can do to streamline that even before the person gets the slot, and so that we continue to make progress and are continuing. That's probably one of the things we worked heaviest on in the last 30, 60 days is that slot award and pending process.
Okay. Tom, you're up for permanent improvements project, fiscal year 2017, 2018.
Yes, ma'am. Tab 4 in your binder is where we're at. This is our request for your approval of the Department's Comprehensive Permanent Improvement Plan, known as CPIP for 2018. The CPIP is a 5-year plan for capital project needs related to deferred maintenance, life cycle refurbishment, and new additions and renovations of existing buildings. CPIP plan is required of all state agencies by the Department of Administration, and the request approval is basically for the first year because that's the only year where money is really assigned to projects. The second, third, fourth, and fifth year are just projected needs in our system based on input that we've had from regional center staff as well as provider staff that have stay-at-home facilities. Basically, we're asking for your approval of the first year. In your package, you see the first 5 pages relate to the 5 years. And the first year, 6th page in that tab is a more narrative of the 4 projects that are in the first year of the CPIP plan, and identifies those projects that equal up to $2.2 million for 4 projects related to 1 at Madison, 2 at Coastal, and 1 at PD Center. As you recall, we do have approval from downtown to set up a non-PIP maintenance account that we work with Department Administration staff and Joint Bond Review Committee staff to set up an account that's not capital related, or as an asset component that we're able to put money into and then monitor on a periodic basis as how we're using those funds for non-capital type expenditures. So a lot of what was put forward in the plans from regional centers and providers will be paid through will be funded through that mechanism, as there are small projects that we can get to and move forward without some of the slowdown of getting approvals and the bureaucracy of getting all the sign off. So we'll be able to move quickly on some of the more smaller projects in our system that need, like air conditioning systems need to be replaced, or roof repair, or ADA bathroom renovations, things like that are small in nature that we can get to on a more quickly basis. So those will not be in the CPIP approval for you for this year, as we got that other funding mechanism. So
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
Don't have any questions? Anybody have any questions?
I did. How much money have you spent on capital improvement this year? On the financial, but I didn't see, I saw where you maybe had some pending or what?
probably $1.5 million, $2 million.
Usually it's about $1.5 million, but last year the commission approved 2.5, 2.4.
For is the CPIP projects?
Yeah.
It was somewhere 2.2, 2.3, something like that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, those are projects that we just probably have just got approved through the process of going downtown and getting the Department of Administration and JBRC and the SPA to approve. So those are still going through the process. That's what we have tried to push away from some of those projects not going downtown to have this account that we have availability to get to more quickly.
But we're not showing anything today on capital improvement in the finance report.
For its actual expenditures, yeah, we got old projects that we're working on that we have got plans, that we've got contractors working on, that we've expended dollars on. But there are projects that are still getting approved, that y'all approved.
Well, I don't see any money where it says spent on capital improvement, but, you know, that line there on capital.
Right.
It's just not spent like it's spent, but they may be in progress. But let me ask you this, on this most recent Spears report that I had asked for, and this one is dated June 20.
It's through May 31st, right?
Yeah, okay, and so it's still showing $9.5 million in that account. And I'd still like to know how old some of these projects are. I know you've been working on it, but I'm seeing a lot of money languishing in that account.
Right, the oldest one on there is the 9853, which was approved by the commission back in 2012. We've had some expenditures, but so the oldest one on there is 2012.
So you cleaned up though.
Oh, yeah, yes, ma'am. We've knocked out 30 or 35 projects over the last year or so.
But we're approving more and more money every year, and we're still maintaining a very large balance in that account. So you know, when we approve it and then budget it, it'd love to be nice to be able to see where you spend it.
Right.
So I'm still not seeing the connection.
Well,
We're voting on spending it, and then it's showing up in this financial
Right.
report. Because otherwise we're just voting on something that didn't happen.
Right. We are getting to them.
Okay.
In the column there on that Spires report, you see $1.8 million spent currently. Look in the second column, the dollars.
Is that this fiscal year?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Those are
And
projects.
that's good, but we always approve a lot more than.
Right, and we got a lot of projects. You look at the bottom section of that report from 9904 down, well, really 9902 maybe. Those have just been approved through the process of going downtown. So you got probably, you know, 5 or 6 million of projects that over the last year or so that just been approved or being approved in the process. So a lot of the money is just being authorized for us to be able to set up a project, go out and start getting design work done and getting a contractor to bid on it and all that. So we're getting there. We understand. We understand.
Moving a little faster.
Yes, ma'am.
There you go.
There you go.
Thank you.
Well, and the new system, as you know, there's only 4 on here. What Tom was talking about is not having to take a bunch of the little projects down, should speed things up considerably. And so that's one thing we're really doing.
Yeah, I mean, and if I could get this on email, on electronic version, the Spears. I like to keep an eye on how much you're spending.
Okay.
Tom, do you have anything else you wanted to?
That's for your approval.
Okay, anybody else have any other questions? Can I have a motion to approve this?
So,
Second. Second. All those in favor?
I
All right, Tom, since you're there, how the financial
Okay,
update?
just want to tap 5 of your binder has the three financial reports for your review. This three reports you've been seeing for the last several months. It's got the cash position reports, the SCDDSN report, and then the report under $6.6 million related to the wetlands reduction effort for 2017. Any questions concerning those reports?
Isn't that capital outlay line?
Yes, ma'am. That's a separate.
Doesn't have anything to do with capital improvement. I don't understand why it's there.
It's a. Marty, can you explain that? Go ahead.
Yes, the way CDs works, those are actually assets that have been purchased. They don't show up in the expenditure accounts, and so that's the way that we are able to provide you all that information, that it was an expenditure. It was just a capital in nature, so it's asset purchase, and that will balance to the budget report, because it does hit budget, but it's not hitting the expenditures the same way.
Okay. It'd just be nice to read a financial report where it actually agrees with the spirit reports. I guess we can, showing how much money we spent based on how much we spent.
Right. Is that more like equipment? Is that more like equipment?
That would be more like equipment. This is an operating report, and Spires is all capital budget in nature, so the Spires would never be reflected in this report.
Oh, we can get a balance sheet with that on there.
Ma'am?
We can get a balance sheet with it on there.
Yeah, we could add it.
We can add it to this report if you want it, yes, ma'am.
Well, it would be, it'd be nice to know
We know
where the money is going and because if you just look on the face of this, I know you're not showing it as an expenditure, and I understand that, but we need to show it somewhere.
We'll add it.
Does anybody have any questions for Tom about the financial update? Any other questions?
Okay.
All right, you want to go to the Bamberg Day?
Yes, ma'am. Tab 6 is a overview of this project that's going on down in Bamberg County related to the Matthews Centers, their day program administrative building. We've been in a process with them for a period of time to try to get this building up to standards and up to code, working with Dr. James down there to get them a facility that their consumers are safe in and their staff are safe in. We've asking for your approval. You can see the narrative there. The last bullet is your approval for the day to move forward with providing $436,175 toward finalizing this project. It's under construction now. We found some issues as we opened up walls and opened up flooring and ceilings, and so we had to add some little bit more dollars to the project. So we're asking for your approval to move forward with this 436. We provided some funding in 17, but it reached the $200,000 limit, so we're asking you to approve this so we can finish out our part of the funding. Bamberg is putting up 30% of the cost of this project, so we're putting up basically 70% based on this.
It's unusual. The building is unusual right now. They're basically holding their programs in a local church that has been nice enough to allow us to use their space.
Yeah, for over a year or more.
Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, I do. How much money do you already have in this?
About 400. We provided 200,000 in 16, and then 175 that we provided back in May or June.
Okay, and so you want another 436. So you're gonna have 8 million.
800,000.
800,000.
I mean, 800 to 900,000.
And they're in Bamberg.
You're gonna be worth that when you're finished.
Yeah, it's going to be a nice building. It's been a process. It was, like you see here in the notes, it was an old tractor facility owned by a different type of service entity, and Bamberg bought it some 25, 30 years ago, and have lived in it, and it needed some major changes to it, and electrical systems were malfunctioning and bad. Safety issues were related to that. We're requiring them to get out of the building so we get into it, and yeah, it's going to be a good building once we get it finalized. Hopefully by November, if everything goes smoothly as we hope it will from now on, they'll be back in it by November. So it's a little over 10,000 square feet, I believe.
How many people do they serve in Bamberg County?
Oh, I think they have around 100 people that are serving day program. In a day program.
The final
Okay, so the payloader of it, I assume is Bamber?
Yes, sir.
They came to us and said, can you help us with this project?
Yes, sir.
What was the process where we said, yes, Bamber will help you out with that? Did that come, I don't recall, was that approved?
No, no.
That was not, well, the amounts at that point in time were below two.
Yeah, over 200,000 at that time.
The project ballooned unexpectedly.
Sure.
Based on what they
Okay.
found.
And that, my constant concern on these sorts of situations is always making sure that whether it's Bamber, Fairfield, Chester, or whoever it is that comes to you guys for help, how is it determined that we decided we were going to help Bamber or,
Life safety issues. It was critical that we get in there and help. There was no way they could stay in it. The fire marshal was, local building officials were all in there saying it was unsafe. And so we had to get in. We had to use our engineering division to go in. We used one of our consulting architectural firms to go in and start specking it out, start scoping it, to understand the problems. So it was critical. And they had to move out. They moved, like Dr. Singer said, to a church. Been there a year and a half, waiting on this building to get efficiently available for them to use again. So it was critical. We come in and help.
So after that's coming in and providing that 70%, that program they shut down.
They wouldn't have been able to continue on.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion?
I would move to approve the additional $436,175 to be awarded in fiscal year 17-18.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Opposed? Okay, you're approved. Tom, you want to go on?
Yes, ma'am. Tab 7 is the Fort Royal CRCF project. This is CRCF stands for Community Residential Care Facility. It's a 15-bed facility down in Fort Royal. We're asking you to surplus this property so that the home can be then put on the market to be sold, and the proceeds to be received back to the department, and then finding additional smaller size facilities that are more consumer friendly than the current facility. As in the narrative says, this is a kind of an old 15-bed facility that's not consumer friendly. It's on a marsh, close to water. Beaufort, we own, state owns the building, but Beaufort DSN board operates it on that campus. They've been wanting to get out of this building for several years. We got a proviso that's attached to this in this binder, in this section of the the General Assembly approved through working with the Beaufort delegation and with the department. The General Assembly approved this, and the governor signed off on it for the all total proceeds of the sale. Whenever that is sold, it will come back to the department. Usually, as you know, when a sale happens on state property, half the proceeds go to the state agency, and the other half go to the general fund of the state. This special proviso allows for 100% money to come back so that we can go then and find additional spaces for these 15 people. 4-bed homes. We've got to buy 3 or 4 homes, or construct 3 or 4 homes in the Beaufort area to provide an alternative for where these people are currently living. So we think it's a good move. We'll have to, once you approve it, hopefully, we'll go downtown, get DOA involved, or administration involved, get SPA involved, and then start getting appraised, getting the market. And we can't sell it for less than the appraised value. So whatever it's appraised at, we'll have to get at least that value or more in the sale. We're thinking this is going to be a 12 to 18 month process of working all this out over the next period of time. So we want to get to work on this. This has just got approved. When we get it surplus, so we can move forward with the other steps in getting this property sold and then finding alternatives. So ask for your approval of this request.
Any other questions?
What is the appraisal is going to be done before putting on the market, correct?
Yes, sir.
So the appraisal is basically setting the price. You get one appraisal, you get 3.
Well, it depends on how good the appraisal is, I would think. We've had one a few years ago, and sir,
what's it worth?
At that time, it was appraised like 1.5 million. Recently, Beaufort went out and hired someone else and it was half that value. So we would definitely throw that particular appraisal out and go back and get 2 or 3 more to make sure we're getting good comps and getting good appraised value for the property. It's on the Marsh and Port Royal, so it's a good location. Someone can really use that space and develop a good facility there. So we're hoping it's going to be of value. Now, Beaufort County, BHDD-OIDD board is affiliated with the county, and the county government down there is very engaged with this project and have committed, and we're expecting a letter any day now from them committing to helping this process out, putting funds in there to help with the potential 3 or 4 houses we're going to take. Yeah, so there's a joint effort here, and they're going to go through the Housing Trust Fund as well. House Trust Fund contribute up to $100,000 on each of the projects that we will develop to find placements for these 15 individuals.
Anybody else have any questions?
I think that we approved the Fort Royal project.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, thank you so much, Tom.
No.
All right, we're on to the fiscal year budget request discussion.
As I think all of you are aware, the agency budget request is due to the executive budget office by September 15th, which is a little bit earlier this year. So at the August meeting or some other scheduled meeting after that, you guys are going to have to hammer down the agency budget request. So for kind of kickoff discussion purposes, we put in last year's budget request, and as the priorities as decided by the commission last year, we were fortunate in the sense that our first priority was very well funded, and I know that we very openly talked about that was going to be a multi-phase, multi-stage budget request over several years most likely, but at least from staff's perspective, though the numbers may change a little bit, none of these budget request priorities have magically disappeared since last year. And so I would say that they are relevant for discussion of future budget requests for this year. As you heard me mention earlier, we are doing stakeholder forums to get input. Already kind of talked to both provider organizations as far as getting their input. They're having internal conversations on their priorities as organizations. We'll continue to talk to families, advocates, and service recipients as to their budget request priorities to help you guys make your decision. But provided this in here for conversational purposes, and then also the second handout under the tab 8 is the bulleted list that you guys came up with in your work session last year as last year's budget request priorities. Again, last year's discussions are a good starting point for this year's discussion. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you guys with whatever thoughts you might have. Again, we're not asking to prioritize, just if there's anything, particularly what staff need is if there's any information we need to gather between now and your August commission meeting where you will be prioritizing, it's easier to know now.
Okay, but that happened that we're going to talk about at the work session.
We'll talk about it in more detail.
Does anybody have any?
The information on item number 4, you're saying that you're going to be instituted by for 1.2 million, which would be, maybe I got during that long, maybe that 40,000.
And that's, I like to refer to it as both sides of the fence. As the regional centers get smaller, the cost per person goes up. And the individuals that are remaining in the regional centers tend to be very difficult to serve. So we have to pay the providers a higher rate in order, so it's both sides of the fence.
It's costing a lot more to serve them.
That's the state, that's the state.
That's the state.
State now, yeah. Wow, that would be something.
Those folks are very challenging.
Yeah, but that would be $120,000 per person. What would that be?
Close to that.
Are you paying $120,000 per person anywhere?
Yeah, they're paying the sort of regional centers.
Some of the residential community beds are $300 a day or a little over $300. There you go.
Well, it's an economy of scale too. I mean, as we shrink the centers, that's a good thing in some ways. financially.
That's right, you got
expensive.
fixed overhead, you're
Right.
gonna have to have, if you said one person or 1,000.
Right.
And we still have, we're not the lowest, but we are on the
One of the
lower end
lowest
of
in
the
the country in
scale
terms
on
of
our
our regional
per diem.
center per
We're-
diem.
Did we request this money for provider oversight last year, 1.65 million?
Yes, ma'am.
What in the world, is there I didn't get a good idea of what that was.
Well,
I'll read.
okay. Yeah, it was multiple. That's, the 1.65 was for the various, all three components of finance.
Remember, we ended up grouping several things together. So, we started off, we had 52 requests, and
Oh, yeah.
we went over it and grouped. So I think we put it under the title strengthening provider support oversight and systems changes. And that included, for example, the 1.2 million we're asking on the intake system.
And
So that's work, the doc we're looking at here was probably the big time work in the work session of grouping. So we didn't say we had 52 requests, whatever number we started with, like, it was a big number.
it's the way we add some of this stuff, but we need to look at that too, that 1.5 million will for increase in ICF grant. I'm not sure what the HHS rate is, but we don't give providers everything we get for ICF. We have a percent of, what percent do we keep?
Yeah.
Probably 3 or 4% of it.
Is that all?
Because it's not, which is part of what we're doing right now in what you guys voted on last month about looking at changing the band system at a point in the future, is there are certain things that we do with the money that DHHS gives us, like paying for vacant bed days, that if you're just doing a retrospective fee for service does not include. So you're not comparing apples to apples and what they pay us versus what we pay them, because there's another things factor in there.
But we're confident in our math, is what we're asking.
Oh, I mean, that cost reports are certainly.
Any questions?
So is there any information you guys need from us between now and the work session when you're having? Yes, one of them is, the last one is on the 10th, and your guys' work session is the 16th. So, we will kind of be doing it as we hold them, but, we'll try to get stuff to you guys as soon as you can, just push that in mind. The last one is 6 days before your work session. So, but yeah, we'll be.
David. Tell us about mentor.
Morning. The information on this topic is in tab 9 of your notebook. And as I think everybody knows, we suspended or froze new admissions, new residential development to Mentor, one of our contract providers, in March of 2016 because of concerns that we had about some of their performance. And since that time, Mentor has devoted a great deal of attention and effort to trying to remedy some of the issues that we had concern about, both in terms of hiring new staff, doing some internal reorganization. Mentor is a national entity. They've got services all over the country, so they brought in experts from other parts of the country that are affiliated with their organization to help them address some of the areas of concern. So they have made a significant impact, or made a substantial effort to address that issue, since we first froze them. Since that time, DDSN has also been meeting regularly with Mentor and their staff to review reports on their progress. We've also conducted quite a few unannounced visits of their homes to see how things are looking. And then, as reflected in the most recent contract compliance review that one of our contractors does, Mentor has pretty significantly improved their performance. Also, as reflected in some of the documents that you've got in your notebook, there has been a reduction in their rate of substantiated abuse, which was certainly an area of concern that we had with them in the past. Now, Mentor is, they focus on serving individuals that have got significant behavioral needs, and much more so than any of our providers. And as you all remember from reports in the past, and even some comments, as Dr. Buscemi mentioned earlier in her report, we're having growing difficulty in serving individuals that have got behavioral needs. So not having Mentor in play is creating, additional problems for us in being able to respond to that population. Lifting of the freeze on Mentor would, I believe, help us better address the issue in terms of people having behavioral needs whose needs are going unmet for longer periods of time. Now, if the commission were to approve the lifting of the freeze, what we would propose to do is to establish a pretty rigorous review process for each admission. So we would take a look at all of the services and supports that Mentor would put into place before we would approve an individual to go in there, make sure that they've got all the services that they need, make sure that all the staff are trained in the unique needs of the individual. Plus, we would also put a kind of a governor on how, what the pace would be of them bringing new people into the program. So we wouldn't allow them to just bring on a whole bunch of people at once. It would be a slow and methodical process. So basically, we are asking for your consideration to lift the freeze on Mentor's admissions.
Do you have any questions or comments?
I would like to point out that we were requested to see if we could break out critical incidents by only residential. IT had to rerun some queries, so I laid that on the top of your folder just this morning because it was just completed this morning. So I'm sure everybody knows what that was provided.
Can you interpret, I'm really having trouble exactly.
Okay, David, you want to explain the charts a little bit, because we were asked to provide critical incident data. And so.
The critical incident chart or all the charts or?
The one that was just laid on my desk.
What this shows is the number of critical incidents, both by, we run this for every one of our providers, and it helps us kind of gauge how they're doing, whether or not they need some assistance or closer oversight. And if you look at the very top section of that, what this shows is, and if you look at the list of numbers starting with 188 and the 207, what that shows is the number of critical incidents occurring to Mentor consumers by fiscal year, going from fiscal year 12 to fiscal year 17, the one that was most recently concluded. The line below that, beginning with the number 4,248, that reflects the number of critical incidents occurring statewide to residential consumers.
You're saying it wrong. That's people, not critical incidents.
I'm sorry, people, you're correct. I'm sorry, you're right. Number of people served, but only by residential providers.
Right, we were asked to say, because Mentor doesn't have many that are in day programs, so we were asked if we could provide the same data pulling out day programs to see if it changed the proportion. So that's what the single chart that I gave you first thing this morning is, comparing Mentor only residential to all other providers statewide only residential, as opposed to what may be inflating the numbers because it was day programs too. So that's different.
So bottom line, that first top block shows that Mentor serves 4.69% of those consumers statewide. In other words, they're serving 220 of the 4,689.
Correct, that is correct.
Okay, so that top box is what's their percentage of people they serve.
Right.
Okay.
The next box is the number of critical incidents.
You might explain that they're serving 228.
Right. As noted in the little explanation above the box, the way these numbers are computed, right. We do it for a whole fiscal year, and our system recognizes Mentor as two providers, high management and regular. And if individuals go in between those two categories of provider during the fiscal year we're looking at, they will be double counted.
Okay, so that is within that 220, 40. Okay, so
yeah,
the number is actually maybe closer to 180 total, so it might be a smaller percentage. Right. Okay.
Well, we got the same factor going on with the others too. It doesn't affect nearly as much because this only comes into play for our high management providers. We've got 3 high management providers. So,
but the percentage should be roughly equivalent.
Roughly equivalent. Yeah. So the next section that deals with the number of critical incidents. Again, the top line is for Mentor. The second line is for statewide, and it's for fiscal years going from 12 through 17. And then the next lines of figures, that shows the rate of critical incidents per 100 served. The top line for Mentor, the bottom line for the statewide, and then that rate is shown in the graph at the bottom of the page.
We're comparing apples to apples in terms of the high maintenance.
Well, no, we're not from the statewide, because again, Mentor serves primarily individuals that have got significant behavioral needs. Most of our residential providers do not. That's not their emphasis anyway. So yes, it's an apples and oranges kind of comparison, which is why Mentor's rate of critical incidents would be expected to be a little bit higher.
However, well, that's it. The change, we don't have to break down between the QPL and the high maintenance, which would be interesting to know. But when you look at their reviews on the dashboard on the internet, the QPL's reviews are worse than the high maintenance one. And this change, I'm trying to find out where this improvement is you're talking about. But on this critical incidents reported, the change with Mentor from 2012 to 2017 is up by 165%. Where's the improvement?
Your critical incidents, you're right. There has not been the improvement there. Where we saw the improvement was in their contract compliance review and their licensing reviews. There was information on that was included in your packet. I don't know if you had a chance to look at that. There was a pretty significant improvement in fiscal year 16. That's where we really saw some slippage and some concerns. And if you look at their performance in fiscal year 17 as compared to fiscal year 16, we have seen a notable amount of improvement.
If you look on the dashboard, on the high maintenance houses, in 2016 they were ranked 35 out of 43, and in 2017 they were ranked 9 out of 12. And the non-high management, next to it, they were like 11, 12. So I pulled this information off the dashboard for you to see.
And this information is going to be more current because the dashboard's open, but it's updated on a quarterly basis.
Yeah, the dashboard that show Mentor hasn't been
reviewed in 17.
At all. But if you look at 2016, and you look at who was reviewed in 2017, in the non-high management one, there's data.
You're absolutely right. In fiscal year 16, their performance on this was not what we wanted it to be. It was not what they wanted it to be. And that's where we've seen a fairly noticeable improvement. In the information that was included in your notebook and sent to you earlier this week kind of highlights that improvement.
When you say you've had unannounced visits of Mentor, how many unannounced visits?
In the last 2 months, we've done 18 unannounced visits.
In the last 2 months?
In the last 2 months.
What about the last year?
Last year, a whole lot more than that. I've been focusing a little bit more on just more recently.
Yeah, I mean, but we've been doing this since we froze them. I mean,
Yeah,
we probably
absolutely.
had 40 plus, if not more than that.
Probably.
So you're aware that we frozen and unfrozen and frozen and unfrozen and
I am.
and you're suggesting we unfreeze again when it did work 2 at a time.
Valid point. Yeah, I think again, the lesson learned there is that we are going to make sure that we keep very close eye on what's going on. We will be continuing the unannounced visits on a very robust schedule. So we would not let that be pushed to the back burner.
And we've kind of used this as a learning experience. We only have 3 high management providers, but we've changed kind of the oversight protocol in general for high management, and possibly even for some of those isolated, a home here, a home there, that we know has more difficult individuals. And so as an oversight agency, also with all the conversation we've had over the last year about oversight roles and responsibilities, we updated and increased a lot of those functions for those high management, either officially designated as, or just those homes that we know have some more challenging folks in it, to kind of keep our pulse on what's going on out there, hopefully in a supportive way. But then if things aren't working the way they need to work, then we can, institute corrective actions. And so, we've changed kind of some of the system in general, but then again, additional checks and balances for this individual provider.
But only half of mentors people are in high management. You're 95 in high management. Now, where are these guys? You also have. Okay, so the other half are going to be benefiting from the high management employees, right?
When we have done our surprise visits and things like that, we have treated mentor as a whole. So we have gone to the QPL homes, we've gone to the high management homes, we are looking at the oversight of that provider. But again, we've used this as a learning experience to institute some additional changes we have high management rates, which means those individuals are paid a higher rate, but we also have a cohort of folks that we know are a little bit more behaviorally challenging that may not be in that high management rate that we also kind of have our pulse on.
Right. The people that are in the mentor QPL, even though they don't quite rise to the level of need that the folks in the high management do, they still have got greater behavioral needs than your typical person serving in our district.
There are a lot of difficult people for business.
There are, absolutely, no question.
The report we got yesterday, and I don't know where it is, but it's the breakdown by type.
It's under tab 9.
That was particularly, that was one of the things late yesterday, that was particularly disturbing to me because of the suicide rate. Because there've been like 279 suicides in the past 6 years.
But that's not actual suicide, that reflects an attempt.
What is it? Oh, it's an
attempt, yes.
Okay, so you define that as,
Just the labeling to try to, we're trying to squeeze a lot of information into a small space, so I think they just kind of abbreviate it. Attempts, it's not actual suicide.
But mentors is like 4%.
4, that's the number of incidents of attempted suicide during.
They're higher.
They are, which I think is reflective of the population that they're serving. Many of the people served in their high management homes have got dual psychiatric and developmental needs, and I think it's folks sometimes that have psychiatric issues are going to have.
You might explain that they've invested in professional staff to help.
They've brought in, like I mentioned earlier, they've brought in additional behavioral support staff. They have substantially increased their behavioral support staff. They've substantially increased their nursing staff. They have restructured the way they supervise their programs to provide better program oversight and program support to their individuals. They have much more systematically trained their staff. They've got a system in place that I think makes it much clearer to them and much clearer to us when they are have a need to train staff. The other thing that was a real issue for us when we froze them was we were concerned about their activity level. And so we've been working very closely with them on increasing the activity level of our folks. And that is an area that they have made pretty substantial improvement in. We are seeing much better information from them about increased or diverse activities that the individuals are getting involved in. So not to say that they don't have room for improvement, but that is an area that we were very concerned about before, and that's an area that they have addressed, and we have seen some improvement.
And they invested in infrastructure that
They put money into some of their physical plans.
They've got 3 major sites. They got the Charleston, Columbia, and Greenville, and they pretty much have parallel systems in each one of those 3 areas. They got staff,
they got administrative support,
which helps them to make sure that those areas are properly fulfilling their goals and meeting the needs of individuals.
I asked for a copy of the contract, and I did not see an anti-lobbying clause in there. And there is an anti-lobbying clause in the county board lobbying contract. And Mentor has one, its name is William Allen. Who does he lobby? William Allen. They have a lobby. We don't know. Do we know why there's a difference between the contract and the county board providers?
Just like state government can have a governmental liaison, we kind of have to do business. We can't have a lobbyist with the boards being quasi-governmental entities. That's where that comes from. For private entities, we basically have the legal grounds to tell them they can't have a lobbyist, but with boards being quasi-governmental entities in statute, that's the difference, and that's the branch, just like state agencies can.
Okay, let me tell you what my position on this is. Your problem is that you don't have providers that'll take these people who have a good record of quality of care. They're not scoring the lowest in the state. And that's your problem. That's what we need to have. And so, one more time, I think we need to go back to the providers and get the ones that we really want to cultivate and expand. They're doing a great job. But any of them, and say, what are your demands? How can we meet your demands so that you will do this? Is it going to take, a backup bed in a regional center? Is it going to take a nurse practitioner certified in psychology, psychiatry? Is it, what's it going to take for you to feel comfortable meeting this need? What we don't need to do, I don't think, is basically, I've looked at all that data. It's very complicated the way it's presented, but it's just to get to the bottom line. And the bottom line is, there's not any improvement. I don't see it. I just don't see it. So, I'm not in favor of unfreezing this.
So do I have a motion? Anybody else want to comment on it?
I have two questions.
Okay, so.
The 17 that are, so there's 17 existing beds.
Vacant beds, that's correct.
Are we, if you were to unfreeze this situation, is it those 17 and that's the stop?
Yes, we don't have any money for growth.
Nothing else involved?
Nothing else involved.
17 that are there. Refresh my memory of how we see the behavioral support plans being approved. Because I do remember that I was going to ask that question. I'm glad you addressed it.
There's a number of areas we've seen improvement. One of the real problems we had before was lack of standardization. So they have, like I mentioned a minute ago, they've hired, I believe, 3 new behavior support people since we froze them. One is kind of their behavior support director, and he serves as kind of the oversight to make sure that all the behavior support plans are meet appropriate requirements. Make sure that the behavior support providers are doing training of the staff, because that's really the key. The direct care staff are the ones that have to understand and be able to implement those plans. So we've seen improved standardization plans. We've seen better quality of plans that are developed that more appropriately address the specific needs of the individuals. We've definitely seen improved training of the direct care staff. One of the concerns we had earlier is we had certain circumstances where individuals that had pretty challenging needs had an okay behavior support plan, but the staff weren't aware of the plan. We're not seeing that now. We're seeing that the staff are being trained in those behavior support plans, which we believe is crucial to effective service delivery.
And we've done then surprise visits to verify.
Absolutely. And so we dig in the books and see, and then and more importantly than look in the books, what we do is we talk to the staff, we talk to the consumers, and so we get kind of a clinical sense of how things are going.
Okay, so my last question. Where are these 17 individuals coming from? And how fast will it take to ramp them up?
Well,
I'm sorry, it's 3, I'm sorry. And what are the other options? You can put them in any order you want. It makes more sense to you, sir. Okay. Those are my 3 questions.
Okay. The 17 would come from our critical waiting list, and we would probably target specific individuals on that critical waiting list that have been on there a longer period of time because of their behavioral needs. The pace with which those would be filled, again, like we suggested, we would look at maybe doing 2 a month at a max, and making sure that we were very thorough in our review of the plans that Mentor developed to make sure that they had all the bases covered, all the staff trained, and that they were going to be able to effectively serve the individual from the first day that they came in there. Third option, what are our options? We could do like Commissioner Thompson said, we could go back to our existing providers. We have done that quite a few times in the past, and we do have several other providers besides Mentor that have expressed a willingness and demonstrated an ability to effectively serve people with behavioral challenges. However, that we only are talking about several other providers.
And we're developing our own too.
Pardon?
We're developing, DDSN is developing. Excuse me.
The problem with that is that these other providers had quite a bit of development during this last fiscal year, and we don't want to risk them getting into the position that Mentor did. You know, if they expand too quickly, and we have the potential of them, their performance slipping. Like Tom mentioned, and like you all will remember, we came to you several months ago and got your approval to open our own community homes that are going to be supporting people that have got behavioral needs. So that's another option.
Well, I
Okay,
was
your answers have dealt follow-ups now, okay? So the first follow-up is you didn't answer question 2.
Okay.
The time to ramp up.
Well,
and before you answer that, the other question you told me about the coming off of the critical list. Okay, I would assume they're coming off the critical list.
Yes.
But how are we determining, is it quantitative, or is it treatment, or is it care? What are the quantitative, what are the values that are going to determine how?
We would look at the behavioral.
And is it going to be part of the management decision that they're going to decide who goes into those 17 slots? I'm just trying to get clear.
Absolutely.
How we determine who's getting into those 17 slots. If we're going to put them in Mentor's hands, I want to know who they are, how we're getting there, and is it time? Is it the level of care, or is it their need, or is it a combination of all of that?
It's a combination of all of them. If we go with a maximum of 2 individuals per month that they would get, that's going to take 7 months for them to fill their 17 vacancies. In terms of where they come from, they're going to come from the critical list, and they would be individuals that have got significant behavioral needs. It would be a joint decision between Mentor staff deciding, yes, we've got the resources and expertise to serve this individual, and DDSN looking at that and saying, we agree with you, you've got the expertise to serve that, plus this is a high priority person that's got a behavioral need based upon clinical information that we have on that individual from case managers or other sources.
And these are people, they're not widgets. So, I mean, we also have to take into account the compatibility of the home that they're going into. I mean, there's been, you know, a lot of movement because Mentors, you know, under the freeze had to, you know, shift things around to maximize staffing patterns and things like that. But I mean, I don't want to lose that we're talking about people. So we've also got to make sure that there's the compatibility with regards to that.
Can I ask one question? I know we have a lot of space available in our regional centers. Could we not take a couple of houses there and you know, have these people in that one section?
Well, we don't have the staff, right? We do have the physical space, but we don't have the staff. Also, I think.
I'm sure we can hire staff just as well as they could hire staff.
We get our staff. I think there's a concern about growing our regional centers. There has been a lot of national focus on public ICFs, and the United States Department of Justice has taken actions against states. Other advocacy organizations have sued states for having a large population of people in public ICFs. So that we could do it, but there would be a legal risk of doing that, I believe.
What's the progress we're making on our own houses?
We've got individuals identified for 2 of the homes. First off, we're going to start with 2 in Sumter, and we're going to do 1 in Clinton. We've got staff or consumers identified for 1 of the homes in Sumter. We've got good progress made with the Sumter board. The Sumter board is going to basically take those over as soon as we set them up. So we are making progress there. The other board that is in Clinton has elected not to partner with us, so we will be directly operating that. We will start recruiting the staff to hire probably within the next 2 weeks. Now that we've got Ms. Hall on board, she's going to be another asset to help us with, particularly with the Clinton project, so we're moving forward on that.
We had the same delay our providers had was for Clinton.
Okay, do I have a motion? Oh, I'm sorry. Does any, no, you didn't say anything. Do I have a motion to approve, removing the pre-developmental?
I will make the motion. The further discussion, so I'll make the motion. I'll make a motion to remove the freeze.
Okay.
Yes.
I just have to say, please don't do this, because there is nothing in any of this paperwork on the abuse cases, 33.7 per 100 compared to statewide 10.49. The critical incidents, which is even worse, the attempted suicide rate is higher, we mentor. Mostly I'm concerned about the abuse allegations and the critical incidents, but I'm not seeing data-wise on the big improvement. I'm hearing that all these things in place, but to me, the proof is in the data, and it just is not there. So,
And I know I'm not supposed to speak, but I'm going to say one thing. We must remember these are most vulnerable people. And well, the people off the waiting list, but I would rather them leave them where they are now than put them in a place that they're not going to take care of. And so I've gone through all of this also, and I have a hard time with it. And I'm in the regional centers because I have a brother who's in one of the regional centers. So, I mean, we need very, special people, because these people are so vulnerable.
If,
I think
that if the freeze were not to be lifted at this time, are there target values in this data that would be acceptable? That at some point in the future, we could say, if you reach this, then that would be the point at which we would consider lifting the freeze.
I think that there is an inherent risk in that, because allegations of abuse are not substantiations of abuse, number one. So some of the conversation today has been about allegations. We do not want to create a culture where people are incentivized to sweep it under the rug. So that's number one. And then, with critical incidents, they are going to vary based on the population that you support. And so going back to some of the conversations previously, I will go ahead and say the elephant in the room. I've had more than one provider say all of this conversation and all of this, being put under a microscope is why that a lot of providers are not willing to serve this population, because they are scared of ending up on the front page of whatever their news outlet is. They are scared of having, those negative consequences. And in some ways, it's okay to put it under a microscope. I'm not saying that it's not, because we want to make sure that we have systems in place, and we use this as a learning curve to improve some of our systems so that we are having the best service array possible. But the reality is, a lot of providers are not willing to take that risk on serving that type of person, or they're only do it to a point. And so I'm not speaking ill of the providers. That's their business decision. I understand that, but that's part of the consequences of why we have a growing critical list, because they're not willing to take the risk of serving individuals that might have that bad outcome, might have that bad incident, even if they did everything right.
Is there some target metric that would? I understand the about allegation. I can accuse anybody of anything anytime I want to, and it doesn't mean a thing. That's not a particularly good metric to use, but
determination.
Substantiated. Would that be a good metric?
And that has gone down.
Well, run
Zero.
it again
Zero
after
last year.
yesterday. Go back up. There was a risk. I'm telling you.
Well, and And there was an arrest. And you can look at the church, and you can look at that as one of two things, okay? I am in a business where I can tell you that they're gonna happen. Any organization needs to plan it, particularly doctors and lawyers, they get embezzled from, stolen from all the time. The question becomes, what was the mechanism by what was found out? Because thefts are gonna happen, the question is do you have mechanisms in place to find them?
Well,
They
apparently it's not
found,
the internal audit.
well, we don't know, that's the same, from what I know is from within the article, I'm kind of curious as to how it was found out, how long it took, because again, in that business, if they steal a lot of money over the course of a month, that's one thing, but if they steal a little bit of money over 10 years, there's a fundamental flaw with your system that you're not catching theft over an extended period of time.
But we didn't catch it in 2013, we didn't catch it in 2016.
Right, we did, right, and that's systemically things that we're trying to address. Yeah, I agree with it, but I'm gonna echo one thing. I agree with you 100% that we need to attack this from all levels, because I'm a big believer in competition, that we need to give our people choices of where they go, and if we give them legitimate choices from the providers, from the hubs that we're providing ourselves, and from private providers that we continue to try to recruit, the best will win out, because people will start to choose to go to the best places. So I agree with that 100%. But I also agree with what Dr. Cheney said, which is I've had multiple providers come to me and say, you want to know what it's going to take for you to have me get into this business? I want you to guarantee to me that the esteemed gentleman from the Greenville News is not going to be writing an article about me in 6 months. And obviously we can't do that. There's no way to do that. I also look at it from the concept, of Mentor does provide a service to the state. If they were, what's their big stick against us? You don't unfreeze us fully. Then we've got a whole slew of people who are left without do we suddenly dump another few hundred people onto the critical needs list all of a sudden with no effective way to help them? I don't know. But I always look at it, what's the alternative that they're going to do, that they're going to look at?
They're gonna make money, they're gonna stay.
Right, well, they're going to stay, but at some point in time, doesn't the freeze cost mean they're not making money? I don't know what they're
Make
going
as
to
much.
Their margins are good.
I think we
do. Right,
do.
I mean, there's things that I've said, and I don't have a great answer. I'm very, very conflicted by this. And I'm just saying, if we lift the freeze, that doesn't mean we stop doing everything else. And I'm very conflicted.
If somebody can show me where the improvement is in any kind of that, you put these things in place and you're gonna monitor the behavior support plan of the person. Well, after you do that, and then I see it, at least get on the average with the rest of the state. Don't be sticking out like a sore thumb with all these indicators of success. We just can't unfreeze somebody before they have demonstrated success at what we've asked them to do, and where is that demonstration of that success? I'm not seeing it, and what we use, be it good or bad, measures of quality performance. We're not even in line with the rest of the state. So why in the world would we put somebody back in a potentially unsafe situation when there's been no demonstration of improvement? We've demonstrated we put measures in place. We haven't demonstrated they work because of the data that we're looking at. So we need some success here.
And I have a question about the data too. And just to make sure that I'm understanding it correctly, you were asked if this was apples to apples, and you said no, it's apples to oranges, because the 83.18 is Mentor, whereas the 34.46 is the general population statewide. Is there not, I'm sure this question's been asked and I missed it, but is there no way to compare similar scenarios?
We have 3 high management providers. We can give you Mentor compared to the other 2. But that's because we only have 3.
And we haven't seen that. That's a different population, and I completely appreciate that the numbers are likely to be different.
And all of the reports aren't high management.
Right.
They're not.
Yeah. So if you go do high management or maintenance or whatever it is, then do it with Mentor's high management only, and their high management only. But I'm saying Mentor's got a problem in more than just high management, and we got nothing in place. We did a new policy on high management houses. But, they're not stuck with that because their contract says, to fill through the RFP or whatever. Now, that stuff's not in the high management. So I don't see the checks and balances in play that are gonna change anything.
Can I ask, since we have some data that we need, could we table this till next month? Because we're not doing apples to apples with the,
And I'm gonna follow up on that, I'm sorry.
wait a minute, just a second, you can have it. But, because it looks like she's asked a good question. We have 3 high management people, but we're not even looking to see what their critical illness are. My big thing is the amount of deaths that Mentor had a couple of years ago, and that is one of the, that kind of scares you to death. And none of that was, really brought out today.
Well, there was information on one of the incidents that we track as deaths.
Yeah.
And if you look at the.
But I didn't get it for the other two high management people.
But even comparing Mentor, it serves a more challenging population overall,
Right.
to just a statewide average that includes everybody.
No, I want to do apples to apples. And we don't have that information, so therefore, I think it's really hard for us to make a decision if we're not looking at the same kind of information. I mean, statewide average is completely different than all the high management things. I mean,
To follow up on that, they can send us the data, but why don't we revisit this after we see some improvement? Yeah, let's not just review it every month to have this, because we won't get a different outcome. Let's just review it when we see some improvement in whatever data we collect and make sure we collect good data.
And I apologize.
Okay, go ahead. No,
And,
sure.
and I understand locations, we only have 2 in-state, so when we're trying to compare apples to apples, is it possible to get data from out of state in some way compared to? I mean, again,
Compare apples and equals.
yeah, there's gotta be something to compare, there's gotta be something to compare.
But we
It's really not a national benchmark.
The other 2
No,
programs.
because every state's definition of critical incident, everybody, it's true. Yeah. And, I mean, we'll be happy, whatever the result is, to give you that information.
It just, and the something that you know who should be able to do that does, how to do it, is Mentor, because they're in a bunch of different states, and I'm kind of curious whether they'll provide us some information that shows how they're doing in South Carolina relative to how they're doing in other states.
They're here.
Yeah, well, that's sort of why I was pointing in that general direction, and I'm kind of curious whether they'll provide us something to show some, and I understand it's coming with.
Okay. We had a motion on the table. We can beat this dead horse until tomorrow, but,
I would actually withdraw that motion.
okay, then I have a motion. Sam, he's withdrawn the motion, so therefore you're sitting,
I'll withdraw my.
okay, so at this moment, we have no motion on the table. It looks
I'll
to
make a
me,
motion
what,
that we do not unfreeze Mentor.
okay? You'll have a second. Okay,
Well, could that be the equivalent of tabling it?
that's different. We can do however you.
I can add it this time.
And that would be basically a table. Okay, so have some little reform stuff going on over here, y'all. Help me.
We have a
Okay,
motion that
I have
has
a
been
motion.
seconded, so it dies.
I have a motion that's about to die. I have a motion, you want to make a motion that you want to table it till we have more data? Okay,
Correct.
do I have a second?
I would second that motion.
Got a second, can I have a roll vote? Sam? Yeah. Yes. No. Okay, Mary Ellen? Okay.
Aye.
We're going to table it until we have more information. Okay. Thank you very much. All right, she came back. I saw you leave, I was going to go, uh-oh. Could you please tell us, Lois, about the Golden Palmetto Award.
Yes, ma'am. As you know, the Golden Palmetto Award is our way of thanking and recognizing outstanding work of a local county that has done a lot for our individuals. And this year, Vice Chairman Lamel has agreed to present the award at the Association of Counties Conference on July the 31st. We had a lot of outstanding nominations, and our staff recommendation to you is actually to recognize two counties, both Georgetown and Williamsburg County, for a joint Golden Palmetto Award.
Can I make a motion?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
I
much.
appreciate it. Okay. We're now going to discuss the adult health care. Beverly, what you got?
Basically, the commission has been provided a draft directive. There may be some additional tweaks and changes based on implementing further input, but wanted, since this has been kind of a hot button topic, wanted the commission's guidance and input on proceeding.
We'll have a discussion on this.
I want to make a statement. I like to be recorded in minutes, but I do not believe, I'm not persuaded that this administrative directive has the legal basis of all these quoted in it. Completely. I'm not completely persuaded that it is legitimate based according to the current statute. That's all I'm saying.
Any other?
Discussion. So is our staff to proceed with hammering down the draft directive?
Well, what, the motion, and I'm basing this off the first 2 pages of the proposed draft directive.
Are you referring to the cover letter?
The cover, I
Summarized?
guess,
Okay.
yeah. And so, under the old statute, we were behind grandparents, correct? Now, under the new statute, they introduced an additional category of folks of other adult relatives, correct? At the end?
Yeah,
Then-
yeah, the new one, yeah, well, I think it's any other
The one is.
people that are related or something like
Yes,
that,
other
yeah.
adult individuals.
Right, right.
So, my motion, following the language that's contained here, which there's not a bullet point for those individuals in the, those other individuals within the draft as it exists right now. I think the intent of what we passed was to put us basically at the bottom of that list in terms of our power to exercise this, was that we were going to defer to other individuals listed out in the statute, so it was closer to what the old statute was. So my motion would be to amend this to add in at the last grouping, the other adult individuals, parallel to the language that's found in the statute, and then insert us behind those individuals, as opposed to its draft directly where it doesn't address that at all. Does that make sense? Does everybody understand what I'm saying?
Well, I think it may be a problem because it's made that determination is supposed to be made by a healthcare professional. So we're asking doctors then to make that determination before us. I mean, if you look at what specifically the statute says, any other adult relative by blood or marriage who reasonably is believed by the healthcare professional to have a close personal relationship with the patient. So.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what the statute says. And that's what I think our intent was when we asked the statute to be changed and what we were doing is effective.
Well, I mean, this is what the statute says now.
The statute
Right,
says
yeah,
that.
right.
We had requested that the legislature change that statute. They didn't get to it.
Right,
They didn't get to it.
right,
That
right.
happened with the legislature.
But it's pending.
It's pending, but right now the law says says we may exercise it much earlier. We may. I think the intent of what we passed several months back, when we passed that request, was to, when we may exercise it, we are choosing to defer and not exercise that power until further on down the line, to respect the wishes of the disability family. So that would be my motion, would be to amend this to reflect that last section, and then have us be after that. Was listed as number 9 in the section, which is not currently addressed at all in this amendment.
Okay, we can change that, and then we'll, because there's
That's my motion.
changes, assuming you guys, we can go and then make sure we incorporate all, some of those was just logistical feedback, or it's not clear, type stuff, and then send it out a version.
That's my motion. I am taking a motion.
You are making a motion?
I made a motion.
Okay, you are.
Before the staff sends this out, that it be amended,
Okay.
that our policy be set according to that guideline that I just laid out in my motion.
Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm gonna post that as for roll call vote.
Okay. Yes.
No.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right, Mr. Goodell, thank you very much. We have the P&A report.
Yes, we do. And under tab 11 in your notebook, you'll have quite a bit of information on this. But in brief summary, the Protection Advocacy for Persons with Disabilities has recently released a report on employment and day services provided to South Carolinians with disabilities. And the report called for reduced use of work activity services and an increase in the number of people with disabilities that are employed in regular businesses. P&A's recommendations are consistent with federal laws and court rulings, and DDSN basically agrees with all of P&A's recommendations. DDSN has in fact been very actively involved in trying to promote employment for persons with disabilities for many, many years. And as detailed in much of the information in your notebook, there have been quite a few different activities that we've been involved with in that regard. And one of the more telling, I think, indicators of our effort in that regard is that the University of Massachusetts is probably the most widely recognized entity that looks at employment for people with disabilities nationally. And South Carolina stacks up okay, actually pretty good. We do a better job of getting people that are served in integrated employment settings than our sister peers do. I think we're about 29%, and the national average is about 19%. So, that I think certainly we need to do better, but that is an area that we have long focused on, and we will continue to focus on that. And I will turn it over to you, and if you all have any questions. Thank you very much.
Okay. No, I think that our next regular meeting was a work session to be held on Wednesday, August 16th. Our next regular meeting will be August 17th, 2017, and we'll be in Columbia, and then we'll have a work session on the August 16th, Wednesday. Thank you so much. Got it.